one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we will start with the public hearing. The public hearing to approve the prohibited use of cannabis projects in public places ordinance. Mr. Kinnean.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Kinnean, Senior Assistant County Attorney. Feels like we've been on a bit of a journey to get to this point, but hopefully we've addressed the questions that you've raised along the way. So just to recap where we are today, we're here asking you to consider approval of a proposed ordinance that will prohibit use of cannabis products in public places in the county. This is in direct response to the legislature's decision in May of 2023 to legalize cannabis. And as I've indicated to you before and other staff, there's lots of moving parts to this topic. This is just a very small part of it, but one which the legislature left open for local units of government to legislate on. I'm just going to give you a quick summary because I realize you've been through this before, but honestly, this is as much for the public today as it is for the county board, since I just want to help educate the public on what this ordinance entails. So again, it says that use of cannabis products will be prohibited in public places and places of public accommodation in the county, unless it's a premise that's been basically licensed to permit on-site consumption. Many of the pieces of the cannabis legislation are being worked on by the Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management. Many of them have an effective date of March 1st of 2025. So that piece of it, the licensing piece, is still being worked on by the state. After input from some of the commissioners, there was a feeling in one of the earlier drafts of the ordinance that schools weren't as clearly defined in the ordinance as they could have been, should have been, and so we tried to beef that up with language that we've added now in the draft that's in front of you today. The second part of the ordinance then will prohibit use of cannabis products in any location where the smoke or the vapor of the product could be inhaled by a minor. Just to recap what Minnesota law provides now, it expressly permits use of cannabis products basically in three places: in a private residence, and that generally includes a yard if you're talking about, for example, a single-family home around the residence; private property that's not generally accessible by the public unless the property owner has prohibited use on that private property; or, as I said a moment ago, on the premises of an establishment that's licensed to permit on-site consumption. One thing that's been a bit of an unclear area that we wanted to address today was use in multi-unit apartment buildings. The way the state law is set up currently, in the interim between now and March 1st of 2025, it will be up to the owner of that property to determine whether or not they will permit use of cannabis products in the units in that building. And then as of March 1st, 2025, that kind of use will become illegal in multi-unit apartment buildings. After some discussion by the board on that point, it was decided that what state law provides in that point won't be changed in the county ordinance. The ordinance will apply throughout the county, though basically the way it's set up, any city or township in the county that decides that they want to do a slightly different version of this will be free to take that step if they choose to do so. And then finally, violations of the ordinance would be a petty misdemeanor. That means it's not legally defined as a crime under Minnesota law. The penalties could include a fine of up to $300 and/or community work service. That's all I needed to cover from my standpoint. We're going to ask Public Health and Sheriff's Office staff to also weigh in from their perspectives. But before I go, any questions you have me about the ordinance?
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Just your charge today, again, we'll be asking you once you've had staff input is to open the public hearing, get in public input. There's a resolution in the packet approving the ordinance then as proposed, to then close the public hearing and have a vote on the ordinance. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Public Health?
Good morning, Chairman Wright, Commissioners. Denise Daniels, Director of Public Health. Before you today, as we look at why a public use ordinance for cannabis, from the public health perspective, it's about the protection and prevention of disease for those who do not want to be exposed to the harmful effects of secondhand smoke. So as you know, we have great ordinances in place already protecting us from the harms of secondhand tobacco smoke. Maybe not as much is known about the harmful effects of secondhand cannabis exposure. So all of the different cancer-causing chemicals and toxins that you find in secondhand tobacco smoke are also found in cannabis smoke as well. And some of the research shows that some of those chemicals are at even higher levels. So when we think about that, a couple of things come to mind for us. What does secondhand exposure to cannabis potentially do to the public? I think about our youth and their developing brains and the research behind what the potential exposure does with that. The research also shows us increased